Marcus's phone buzzed incessantly as he analyzed pressure systems at the weather center. 6 text messages from his new neighbor, Alan. Asterisk HOA SWAT team at your house asterisk. Asterisk Patricia has reinforcements asterisk. Asterisk they're taking measurements at asterisk. Asterisk many photos being taken asterisk. Asterisk official looking papers taped to door asterisk. Asterisk dude, what did you do? Asterisk. By the time Marcus pulled into his driveway that evening, sunset cast an ominous orange glow across his front door, now barely visible beneath a mosaic of violation notices. Red, orange, yellow, and pink papers fluttered in the breeze like some deranged bureaucratic rainbow. He approached cautiously, plucking the most prominent notice, printed on blazing red paper, from the center of his door. Critical violation. Unauthorized external structure. The headline blared in bold 24-point type. Below followed a paragraph citing HOA bylaw 7.32 prohibiting satellite dishes exceeding 18 inches in diameter visible from any common area. The notice demanded removal within 48 hours and threatened daily fines of $100, compounding at 1.5x per day until remediation is complete. Marcus did the mental math. By day 10, he'd owe more than his mortgage. Just as he reached for the second notice, his doorbell camera app chimed. The live feed showed Patricia Wilkins on his doorstep, her face uncomfortably close to the camera as she squinted into the lens. Behind her stood 2 men in matching polo shirts embroidered with Oakwood Estate Standards Committee. Marcus opened the door mid-knock, startling Patricia. She recovered quickly, straightening her Property Values Protection Squad baseball cap. "Mr. Jensen," she announced with the gravity of a prosecutor delivering an indictment, "I've brought witnesses to document the continued violation." Without waiting for invitation, she marched past him onto his lawn, gesturing dramatically toward the satellite dish. From her tote bag emblazoned with "Rules are for everyone," she extracted an extending tape measure. "Herbert, Donald, observe and document," she commanded her polo-shirted minions, who dutifully raised their tablets to record the proceedings. With theatrical precision, Patricia extended the tape measure to its limit, standing on tiptoes to reach the satellite dish's edge. 27 inches, she declared triumphantly. Exactly 9 inches of violation. "Actually, I can explain," Marcus began. Patricia raised her hand like a crossing guard stopping traffic. "Save it for the hearing." "Hearing?" "Community Aesthetic Tribunal, Tuesday at 7 p.m. sharp." She glanced at her gold watch. "Well, 7 p.m. for the committee. Your assigned appearance time is 7:36. You schedule violations by the minute?" Patricia's expression suggested he'd asked why water was wet. "Of course, efficiency is key to community standards enforcement. We have 6 violations to process before yours." From her clipboard, she produced another notice, this one laminated, and pressed it into his hand. "I've already gathered 7 signatures supporting immediate remediation." The Hendersons at 247 were particularly distressed. Mrs. Henderson claimed she could see the dish from her breakfast nook if she stood on a chair and used binoculars. Through his open door, Marcus could see his neighbor Alan watching from his window, simultaneously giving him a sympathetic thumbs up while shaking his head in warning. "This isn't just about aesthetics," Patricia continued, her voice rising to ensure the gathering neighbors could hear. "Today it's satellite dishes, tomorrow it's lawn flamingos, and before you know it," she paused dramatically, "unauthorized wind chimes." Several watching neighbors gasped. "The hearing is your opportunity to explain why you believe rules that everyone else follows shouldn't apply to you." With practiced efficiency, she pivoted on her heel and marched toward her next target, her assistants scurrying behind. Marcus looked down at the laminated notice. In small print at the bottom, "Pre-hearing settlement options available with 24-hour acceptance. Minimum compliance donation to the Community Beautification Fund, $750. The battle had escalated to extortion. Marcus Jensen stood in his driveway, keys still warm in his palm, gazing at the 2-story colonial he now called home. After a decade chasing tornadoes and hurricanes across the country, the meteorologist finally had a permanent address in Oakwood Estates. The irony wasn't lost on him. A man who'd built his career tracking nature's chaos, now settled in a neighborhood where even the placement of garden gnomes was strictly regulated. "Congratulations again, Mr. Jensen," his realtor had said that morning, handing over the keys with a sympathetic smile. "Just remember what we discussed about the HOA." She'd slipped him a business card with "document everything" scrawled on the back. Marcus dismissed the warning as hyperbole until a shadow fell across his moving boxes precisely 43 minutes after the moving truck departed. "Excuse me, those boxes are visible from the street." The voice belonged to a woman in her 50s, impeccably dressed in a pastel pantsuit, a clipboard clutched to her chest like a medieval shield. Her blonde hair was arranged in what Marcus would later learn residents called the Karen cut. "I'm Patricia Wilkins, Homeowners Association president," she continued without waiting for response. Section 12.47 clearly states that no storage items may be visible from any public-facing area. She gestured toward his open garage door where half-emptied boxes lay scattered. Marcus extended his hand. "Nice to meet you. I'm Marcus Jensen. Yes, Lot 47. Closing completed at 9:17 this morning." Patricia ignored his outstretched hand, instead producing a smartphone and snapping several photos of his garage. "Documentation. You'll want to resolve this before the afternoon inspection." Before Marcus could respond, she was already striding toward his mailbox, measuring tape in hand. "This appears to be approximately half an inch taller than regulation." Another photo, another note. That night, after shoving every box into his unfinished basement, Marcus found a 47-page HOA covenant manual had been slipped through his mail slot. Certain sections were highlighted in neon yellow, with handwritten time limits for compliance. 3 exhausting days later, Marcus received the call he'd been hoping for since submitting his research proposal 6 months earlier. "Jensen, Eleanor Wright from the National Weather Service. Your application for the Early Detection Network has been approved. Your property's elevation is perfect for our northwestern coverage gap." Marcus pumped his fist in silent celebration. After losing his research equipment and nearly his life to last year's devastating EF4 tornado, this was his chance to make a difference, to potentially save lives with faster warnings. "Government contractors will arrive tomorrow for installation," Dr. Wright continued. "Standard satellite equipment, nothing too obtrusive. Any chance it's under 18 inches? Marcus asked, thinking of the HOA manual's specific restrictions on satellite dishes. "I'm afraid not. This is specialized equipment requiring precise dimensions. But don't worry, as government property, it's protected under federal regulations. We'll send all documentation." The installation team arrived at dawn, efficiently mounting the sleek but undeniably conspicuous equipment on the eastern side of his house. The dish gleamed in the morning sun, its perfectly calibrated position capturing data that would feed directly into the National Weather Service's predictive models. As the government van pulled away, Marcus noticed Patricia Wilkins frozen at the end of his driveway, her clipboard hanging limply at her side, mouth slightly agape. For 17 glorious seconds, the HOA president was speechless. Then her eyes narrowed, her posture stiffened, and the clipboard raised to its defensive position. The battle for the satellite dish had begun. The Oakwood Estates community room had never seen such attendance. Residents filled every chair, with latecomers lining the walls 3 deep. The monthly HOA meetings typically drew only the most dedicated community watchdogs, but news of the satellite dish showdown had spread through neighborhood text chains and over fence-line conversations. Marcus arrived 15 minutes early, but still had to squeeze through the crowd. He clutched his briefcase containing the government documentation, his armor for the battle ahead. At precisely 7:00 p.m., Patricia entered through a side door with her board members in tow, all wearing matching navy blazers with gold Oakwood Estates crests. She surveyed the packed room with barely concealed satisfaction. Nothing validated her authority like a full audience. "I call this meeting to order," she announced, striking her gavel with practiced authority. We have several aesthetic violations to address before Mr. Jensen's case at 7:36. Marcus settled in as Patricia efficiently processed violations, unapproved mailbox designs, improper garden mulch colors, and a hotly contested wind chime installation that resulted in a $150 fine, despite the owner's tearful plea about its sentimental value. At exactly 7:36, Patricia's gavel struck again. Case number 47B. Jensen property, unauthorized satellite installation, exceeding maximum dimensions. The room hushed as Marcus approached the podium. Patricia glanced at her watch. You have 3 minutes to explain why you believe rules that everyone else follows shouldn't apply to you. She clicked a remote, and a PowerPoint presentation appeared on the wall. Multiple high-resolution photos of his satellite dish from various angles, complete with red circles and measurement annotations. Before I begin, Marcus said, opening his briefcase, I want to clarify that I'm not requesting special treatment. I'm simply clarifying jurisdiction. He removed the official documentation and placed it on the overhead projector. The Department of Commerce letterhead filled the screen, causing several board members to shift uncomfortably. This satellite dish isn't a personal entertainment accessory, Marcus explained. It's specialized meteorological equipment owned by the National Weather Service, installed as part of a federal early warning system for severe weather events. Patricia's dismissive wave cut him off. Mr. Jensen, whether it's for watching football or tracking clouds doesn't change our regulations. Section 7.32 clearly states. With all due respect, Marcus interrupted, sliding another document onto the projector. Federal law supersedes HOA covenants in this specific case. The room watched as Marcus methodically explained the OTRD rule and the government's ownership of the equipment. Several residents nodded with growing understanding. Patricia's cheeks flushed. A dish is a dish, and ours have an 18-inch maximum. Federal law doesn't supersede our community standards. The room grew silent as Marcus placed his final document on the projector. The formal letter addressed directly to Patricia Wilkins, explaining in unambiguous legal language that her actions constituted interference with federal property and outlining potential penalties for continued obstruction. This isn't my personal satellite dish, Ms. Wilkins, Marcus explained as Patricia's face drained of color. You've been threatening to fine the United States government for protecting your community from natural disasters. Herbert, one of the board members, leaned over to whisper something in Patricia's ear. She pushed her microphone away, but in the silent room, her horrified whisper carried, obstruction of a government safety system is a what level offense. Marcus picked up his documents, his point made. I'm happy to answer any questions about how this equipment helps protect Oakwood Estates from severe weather. That's actually why I moved here, to help implement this new safety system. For the first time since the meeting began, Patricia seemed to have lost her script. She stared at the federal letterhead still projected on the wall, the reality of her situation finally sinking in. The gavel lay silent on the table. Sleep eluded Marcus. At 2 a.m., he sat surrounded by empty coffee mugs and scattered printouts of HOA regulations, property laws, and satellite installation guidelines. His laptop screen glowed with dozens of open tabs. Forums where homeowners shared HOA horror stories and legal precedents that might save him from financial ruin. There has to be something, he muttered, rubbing his eyes. Just as he was about to admit defeat, a forum post caught his attention. HOAs can't restrict certain satellite installations. Look up OTARD. 3 more coffees later, Marcus had discovered the Federal Communications Commission's OTARD rule, over-the-air reception devices, which specifically prohibited homeowners associations from restricting satellite dishes under certain conditions. As dawn painted his living room in pale light, Marcus dialed his supervisor's number, pacing anxiously as it rang. This better be world-ending weather, Jensen, Dr. Eleanor Wright growled, her voice thick with interrupted sleep. Not weather, HOA. They're trying to force me to remove the satellite equipment. A pause, then a resigned sigh that suggested she'd fought this battle before. HOAs, she muttered. I've dealt with 3 this year alone. Coffee first, then check your email in 15 minutes. Exactly 14 minutes later, Marcus's inbox pinged. The message from Dr. Wright contained 3 attachments: official government documentation confirming the satellite's federal status, a legal brief outlining federal preemption of local restrictions, and a formal letter on Department of Commerce letterhead addressed directly to Homeowners Association, Oakwood Estates. His phone rang almost immediately. "Got my email?" Dr. Wright asked, sounding considerably more alert. "Yes, but I'm not sure." "You're on speaker," she interrupted. "I have someone who can help. Marcus Jensen, Seibel, Washington, Department of Commerce Legal Affairs." The new voice radiated authority. "I understand you're having an HOA situation." Marcus explained the escalating notices and impending fines. "Classic overreach," Seibel responded. "But they've picked the wrong battle. This isn't just any satellite dish protected under OTARP. This is government property installed for official meteorological purposes. So they can't make me take it down. Make you take it down. Mr. Jensen, they're threatening federal property. That equipment is part of a nationwide early warning network designed after last year's disasters. Your HOA president isn't just fighting you, she's inadvertently obstructing a federal safety initiative." Marcus felt a weight lift from his shoulders. "So what do I do?" "Attend their little hearing," Seibel advised. "Take the documentation I've provided. If they persist, contact me immediately. I've included my direct number. We've had this issue before," Dr. Wright added. "Usually, once they understand they're battling the federal government rather than a homeowner, they back down." As Marcus reviewed the imposing stack of legal documents, his doorbell camera alerted him. The feed showed Patricia and 2 board members hammering a sign into his front lawn. "See Alumni Standards, VIOAATI on. Hearing, SDHEDU. Marcus couldn't suppress his smile as he watched their somber proceedings. Little did they know that carefully orchestrated enforcement action was about to collide with federal law. He casually stepped outside, coffee mug in hand. "Morning, Patricia," he called pleasantly. She glanced up, momentarily surprised by his cheerful demeanor. "Looking forward to Tuesday's hearing," he continued. "I've been gathering some fascinating documentation you might want to review beforehand." Patricia's eyes narrowed suspiciously. The tribunal doesn't pre-review materials, not even when they concern federal jurisdiction. For the second time since they'd met, Patricia Wilkins was momentarily speechless. But Marcus knew the battle was far from over. The hearing would be his moment to reveal exactly who owned that satellite dish. By 8 a.m. the next morning, 3 local news vans had set up camp outside the Oakwood Estates main gate. The HOA's attempt to remove federal weather monitoring equipment had sparked unexpected public interest, especially in a region still recovering from last year's devastating tornado season. This is Diane Reynolds reporting live from Oakwood Estates, where a Homeowners Association president allegedly attempted to fine the federal government for a weather monitoring satellite dish. We're speaking with residents about this developing story. Inside his home, Marcus watched the coverage with a mixture of amusement and concern. His phone hadn't stopped buzzing since dawn. Calls from neighbors, weather service colleagues, and even a morning show producer requesting an interview. A text from his neighbor Alan summed up the community sentiment. *ONG, they're calling her HOA Karen on Twitter. There are EEES of her measuring the Washington Monument with her tape measure *. At 10 a.m. sharp, Marcus's doorbell rang. Instead of Patricia, he found Herbert, the HOA board treasurer, looking distinctly uncomfortable in the shadow of a news van parked across the street. "Emergency board meeting. 1 hour. Your presence is requested," Herbert said, handing Marcus an official invitation, notably lacking any mention of violations. The HOA office buzzed with tense energy when Marcus arrived. Patricia sat stiffly at the head of the conference table, flanked by the HOA's attorney, a nervous man whose perspiration had created visible damp patches on his shirt. "Mr. Jensen," the attorney began once everyone was seated, after reviewing the federal documentation you provided, we believe there's been a significant misunderstanding. Patricia stared straight ahead, lips pressed into a thin line. Oakwood Estates has always prided itself on community safety, the attorney continued. Had we been properly informed about the weather monitoring system's federal status and public safety purpose, this unfortunate situation could have been avoided. Marcus noted the careful language, not quite an apology, but a clear retreat. In light of this new information, Herbert added, the board has unanimously voted to create an exception for government-mandated safety equipment. The attorney slid a document across the table, an official retraction of all violations and fines, along with an invitation for Marcus to give a presentation about the early warning system at the next community meeting. Additionally, the attorney continued, glancing nervously at Patricia, Ms. Wilkins has an announcement. Patricia finally spoke, her voice carefully controlled. After 5 years of service, I've decided to step down as HOA president, effective immediately. The silence in the room was profound. However, she continued, I will be transitioning to a newly created position as community safety liaison, focusing on our partnership with the National Weather Service. 3 months later, Oakwood Estates had transformed. The community center now featured an educational display about severe weather safety, with real-time data from Marcus's satellite equipment. School groups regularly visited for tours led by none other than Patricia Wilkins, who had channeled her organizational zeal into emergency preparedness. The spring's first severe thunderstorm warning came with 12 additional minutes of advance notice thanks to the monitoring system, enough time for the entire community to reach the designated shelter. As residents gathered in the community center, Patricia approached Marcus. Still an eyesore, she remarked, gesturing toward the direction of his house and the satellite dish that had started it all. But worth it? Marcus asked. Patricia watched as families settled safely inside, away from the approaching storm. For once, her clipboard was nowhere in sight. I suppose some violations are acceptable, she conceded, almost smiling. But don't tell anyone I said that. I have a reputation to maintain. Outside, the wind howled, but inside Oakwood Estates, former adversaries had found unexpected common ground in keeping their community safe.